Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you.
My talk title tonight is called Chauffeured by Stillness. This is a new seat for me. However, I'm not driving. And there's a lot of comfort that I take in that, knowing that I am here, but I am allowing myself to be driven by Spirit. Recently, I completed a 26-hour round-trip road trip. I went up to Unity Village. I was graduated and licensed and ordained last Monday, and up at Unity Village, and thank you. Several people, there was an entourage that came up, some of whom are here tonight, and I'm just so grateful for the love and support for that. But when I go on road trips, for me, it's go time. I take it very seriously. I make sure that snacks are bought in advance because we will not be stopping. I like to stop and look at the different mile markers and think, okay, 25 miles to the next rest stop. Okay, how's my bladder? Okay, well, I'm fine. Okay, we can keep going. Go to the next one. Go to the next one. I mean, you can sleep when you're dead. That's just my take on road trips. Just like, let's go, let's plow through. That's how I typically do things. But when I left a couple weeks ago to go drive up to Unity Village, I decided to do something different. And what I did with that was just allow myself to relax, to not necessarily map out everywhere that we're going. In fact, I wound up changing directions 3 different times. And I just allowed myself, I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna go. I'm just gonna let myself stop. They're Buc-ee's, okay, we're gonna stop there. You know, all the important milestones that you have on road trips. And so I allowed myself to take my time, and I had some really fun adventures. And then I got up there and I had an opportunity to meet so many of my classmates and teachers and people that I've been in this ministerial program now for 4 years online, 2.5 of which we haven't seen anybody because of the pandemic. And how amazing is it, I finally got to meet my prayer partner that I've been praying with for 2.5 years. I had never met in person. So these beautiful connections were happening. So it was an incredible time, very go, go, go. The entire schedule was absolutely packed. I loved every minute of it. And then it was time to go home. And I knew that I was going to be stopping to see my parents who live in East Texas near Tyler. And so I thought, okay, I'll take my time and kind of meander my way on down. And I saw them and I enjoyed a brief Father's Day with my dad. And I left Sunday afternoon. And I hit that point, and I don't know if it was from all of the driving through the flatness of Kansas and Oklahoma, but the horse had seen the barn. I was ready to go. I had about a little less than 4 hours to go to get here, and I was gunning it. I was back on, up tip-top shape. Here we go. I pulled up Waze, which is the app that I use if I want to go somewhere the fastest. So I was sure to map that out, and it shows little speed traps and things like that. I thought, okay, well, I'll just keep my eyes on it. And I was approaching one area. You already kind of probably have a feeling where this is going. And I saw, okay, there's a couple officers that are over here on the map, so they're taking care of that. Not remembering that's not a real-time map. So here I come cruising right over the hill, and all of a sudden, I see this vehicle turn around behind me, and I think, all right, here we go. So sorry, Mom and Dad, if you're watching, 3 hours from home, I got pulled over. I was not going very fast. I was only going 4 miles an hour over, but he said, is there a reason you're in a hurry? I said, I'm going home. And that was all I could think to say, and I had the biggest smile on my face. I did not want to blurt out, you're the Holy Spirit telling me to slow down. I get it, because I might not have made it back, honestly. But I sat there and I sat with that, and I thought, wow, What a space for me to have come off of the last week of spiritual practice to be in a place where it's like, you got me. You got me. Now what is mine to do? I put it on cruise control the rest of the drive home and made it just fine. So I was called to stillness. And I wonder, have you ever been pulled over in life? You don't have to raise your hands, it's okay. But if you've ever, anything that has ever caused you to pull over, that could be a speeding ticket, that could be an unexpected health condition that's come up. The sudden loss of a job or a relationship, or even the gain of an unexpected new arrival. I think we can often get into this duality of the good and bad thinking. And really, I'm not here to say that any of these are good or bad. It's just, they just are. They're information. So I want to talk to you also about the power of pivoting. If you've heard of the term pivoting before. I gave Myra a heads up that I will be standing up, so not to jar those that are online. But when we receive information, any number of things can happen depending on where we are in our consciousness, where we are in our spiritual groundedness, and really what's happening in the world. So when you pivot, as I speak down low, it gets louder, I just noticed that. As long as one foot is grounded, you can move any which direction and shift your course of action. You are not obligated to stay in that lane, in that spot. You can pivot, you can move. You can go over into a slower lane. So we're rerouting our consciousness by doing this. And spiritual practice, our most common ones here at Unity are prayer and meditation, denials and affirmations. That's what we like to do. And there are benefits for the health, for our wellness, for our vitality. And if we don't utilize those, and sometimes life comes and kind of taps you a little bit, and maybe tap you a little harder if you're not doing that practice thing that we talk about here at Unity. And sometimes the Holy Spirit comes as a cosmic 2x4 or a state trooper with red and blue pretty lights. Any number of things. But stillness is about stepping out of your head and stepping into your heart. New Thought author Eric Butterworth says this in his book, The Creative Life: when you get still, get centered in God in you, then there is a natural rhythmic flow of the universe. Work and rest, outpouring and infilling. The stillness allows you to know that God cannot be more present anywhere than is present everywhere. The stillness allows you to know that God cannot be more present anywhere than is present everywhere. And when I heard that, it made me think of our beloved Reverend Michael and his song, many of you may know, Nearer Than the Air. It was the first thing that came to my mind. And some of the lyrics are, I breathe in and I'm filled with the Spirit, and it's health to my body, it's peace to my mind, it is joy to my soul. And I breathe out a simple prayer. Thank you. And my breath becomes a song that's been singing all along, that's singing everywhere. It's nearer than the air. How do you get your messages, get your spiritual messages? For me, music is a powerful way that I connect to the divine. Being out in nature is another one of those ways. For some, it's yoga. For others, children. Oh my gosh, they say everything. And yet God speaks. I have two favorite authors, Jeff Brown and Brene Brown. No relation. Jeff Brown is the author of Grounded Spirituality and the Untethered Soul, and Brene Brown is a brilliant researcher and author here at Houston at I almost said Unity of Houston, University of Houston. And in her book, The Gifts of Imperfection, Brene says, stillness is not about focusing on nothingness. It's about creating a clearing. It's opening up an emotionally clutter-free space and allowing ourselves to feel and to think and to dream and question. So this is an invitation to us to play in this space of possibility. And so in that, we create a sacred container for this work to be able to be done. We do that in prayer. We do that here tonight. We've created this atmosphere in this gorgeous pyramid building for us to do this special work. And if you're at home, right where you are is a sacred space. I have a coach of mine, Reverend Eliza Bloom Robinson. I did great work with her, one-on-one work with her for a while. And one of the things that she had me do when I first started meeting with her years ago was we talked about creating this field of the spiritual heart. So what she was having me do was to close my eyes and to envision a place that was just beautiful, that was safe, that was serene. And what was that like? And my head immediately goes to being out in a literal field where there's greenery, where there's a river that's flowing through, where there's trees and birds singing, just picturesque. It's just what makes my heart sing. And she said, do you feel safe? And I said, there are bears. There are bears. And I said, yeah. Little bit of a literalist. I thought, if I'm going to be out in nature and not in this beautiful place, well, surely there has to be bears. Really, that's my fear. That's what's coming up. There is a resistance to being still, anxiety of, am I really safe here, even in this space that I create in my mind? And sometimes there were bears, but the place was beautiful. I believe that stillness is not the absence of movement, but a productive redirection of energy. And this is, again, what we do within our time of meditation. We create this space, we stop, we breathe, we allow ourselves to just check everything at the door because life is going on every second. Regardless of where we're at, regardless what it is that we're going through, life just continues to go. So stillness is about stepping out of your head. For me, stepping out of my head and into my heart and allowing that heart to speak. So how can we be still in a fast-paced culture? I think one of the ways to do that is to acknowledge the role of fear. Fear is one of the most subtle and destructive error thoughts in the carnal mind, in our man's experience. It's like picking up a handful of sand and throwing it in your eyes, and you just can't fully see clearly what's going on. It makes you second guess. It can make you second guess. And we can forget and be blinded to that truth that God is everywhere present, that God is for us, that we are divinely equipped to persevere. Fear is also healthy, as our friendly neighborhood psychologist, Dr. Randall Brailsford, had introduced as well. You well know it's the body's way of responding to a perceived threat. So I'm not talking about eradicating fear, but acknowledging and checking in with what kind of fear do you have? Do you have the healthy fear of there's a mama bear in the woods near me, now is the time for me to step back? That's a healthy sense of fear. If there's a fire, you know to leave. That's a healthy sense of fear. There is also the unhealthy and the unnecessary fear, which some of you may know in the acronym FOMO, F-O-M-O, which is the fear of missing out. And the fear of missing out is not just the sense that there might be something better that you could be doing in the moment, but it's the feeling that you're missing out on something fundamentally important that others are experiencing right now. And the telltale example of that is on social media. The amount of fear that is generated there of, oh, I'm missing out, or people who have photos of their kids and their milestones. Maybe they're looking at their child going, well, wait a minute, mine's not talking yet, or my child's not there yet. Is there something wrong? Or we can look at just the milestones within our lives and can have that comparison or fear of missing out of, oh, if I don't do this, if I don't resend that chain letter from 1996, if I didn't send it to 7 people, this is why I'm going through this now. It's silly. And it is silly, this fear of missing out. But I want to tell you, you cannot miss out on that which is yours. You cannot miss out on that which is yours. Yours to do, yours to experience, yours to claim and own. There's divine timing, divine order. One of those that we talk about in Unity is trusting that the universe has a purpose and a plan for your life, and your life is unfolding divinely in perfection, So I invite myself and you to stop subscribing to the illusion that you have to be perfect, you have to be the best, you have to be the smartest, the prettiest, the fastest, have the greatest A's, whatever it may be. There is an illusion that we buy into that takes us out of this stillness. And maybe you were told that you had to get those grades. Maybe that was a form of survival for you. And I want to acknowledge that because I know that may well be somebody's experience here tonight. That maybe you had to raise your voice to be heard. Maybe you had to get those good grades, otherwise you wouldn't get affection. There is this pressure to be on. And one of the beautiful things within our movement is that we embrace the freedom to be as we are, that we are invaluable. So if we're going to be chauffeured by stillness, we need to be willing to move over, to downshift, get in the slow lane, stop at Buc-ee's, something, but be present. Many of you know I am an avid fisher, so I have to tell. Not I have to tell, I get to tell. See, I'm still practicing my schooling. That's great. Once a fisherman was sitting near seashore, under the shadow of a tree and enjoying a refreshing beverage. Suddenly, a rich businessman passing by approached him and inquired as to why he was sitting under, enjoying a refreshing beverage and not working. To this, the poor fisherman replied that he had caught enough fish for the day. And hearing this, the rich man got angry and said, "Oh, why don't you catch more fish instead of sitting around in the shadows wasting your time?" The fisherman asked, "What would I do by catching more fish?" Well, you could catch more fish, you could sell them and earn more money, and buy a bigger boat. And the fisherman thinks and says, well, what would I do then? The businessman says, you could go fishing in deeper waters, catch even more fish, and earn even more money. Well, what would I do then? Well, you could buy many boats, big boats, and employ many people for you and work even harder and get all this money. Okay, but what would I do then? You could become a rich businessman like me. Well, what would I do then? You could enjoy your life peacefully. Isn't that what I'm doing now? You don't need to wait for tomorrow to be happy, to enjoy your life. You don't need to be more rich and more powerful to enjoy your life. Life is at this moment, and we're here to enjoy it fully. So I ask, are you present? Eckhart Tolle says, all you really need to do is to accept this moment fully. You are then at ease in the here and now and with yourself. So life keeps going, and we continue to pivot. Take every opportunity to step out of your head and into your heart. I'm giving this specific talk because I need to hear this. For the perfectionism that I am challenged with, for the value of finding and knowing my value and my worth, which I know, but I don't always know. There's a shift that needs to happen, a time for me to pivot, a time for me to move into the slower lane. And maybe you can think of opportunities in your life and consider, how would you live differently, knowing that you can't miss out on that which is yours, that somebody's not going to come and take it from you, that it already has yours. It already has your name on it. How will you live differently knowing that you are already divinely equipped with all you need to navigate this life? If you're new to Unity, stick around a bit, because I guarantee you will have a transformational experience as you allow yourself to come into a space where you are loved as you are, welcomed as you are, that you are showered in truth, that you are loved, that there is a place for you. And not only are you invited to the dance, you get to pick the music. You belong here. How will you live your life differently knowing you don't have to white-knuckle the steering wheel of your life, and you can trust the provision and abundance and wisdom and guidance of God, the divine, the universe, whatever name you choose to call God? So I invite you to consider these questions and to spend time in practice and observe what comes up for you. I'd like to close with an affirmative prayer, which, if you wouldn't mind putting up on the screen, that would be lovely. I invite you to speak this with me. I turn within. I give thanks to know that all I require, truth, clarity, strength, peace, is forever present at the core of my being. In stillness, I seek nothing. I simply hang out in the absolute, make myself available, and bear witness to the infinitely discoverable wisdom of my soul. Breathe that in. I honor all of you for your presence this evening. The universe is ever conspiring in your favor, even in the slow lane, even in stillness. Namaste.
I never thought I'd hear the word Jen, Dickey, and stillness in the same sentence, but okay. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for that, Jen. It's awesome. Loved seeing you here for the first time as a newly minted Unity minister. Stillness. I don't think it's something that we practice enough in our life. Jen called me last night and said, "Hey, would you platform for me?" And I said, "What are you going to talk about?" And she said, "Stillness." And I said, "Be still and know that I am God." And she goes, "Proverbs 46:13. And I said, "You're just taking that Master of Divinity out for a spin, aren't you?" But as a psychologist, I can tell you that the unity principle of stillness, the practice of meditation, is incredibly important to our mental health. And the ability to pause, to stop, to take a breath, to understand what level of spiritual altitude you are, and is this appropriate to the task I have to do at the moment? And if it's not, we can take a breath, we can reorient ourselves, we can get to a different space with the tools that we've been taught here at Unity, and we can tackle that problem. Or maybe we need to call in other people to help. We need to tag our resources, somebody to get you to the hospital. All of those things are available, and they tend to come through stillness. And I've had many talks with David about creativity, and a lot of that comes from stillness, I think.
I liked how the affirmation says to seek nothing, as opposed to not seeking anything. That it's something we do proactively to create space. I also like that we can't really diverge from it for long. You know, it's wonderful when our consciousness and our physical being and our emotional health and all of our condition is in a state of awareness of our inner stillness, and we can even then be quite active and still maintain that stillness. And I've done that enough to know that it's possible. But I also know that I also respect that there are biorhythms to life, you know, and so sometimes that stillness kind of goes too far. And I during the pandemic, I was deliberate and intentional occasionally about just going unconscious. It's like, okay, I'm going to go to sleep, and I'm just fine with that. And then there were other times when I recognized, okay, I'm not really content in this moment. And so sometimes I actually have to resort to technique, you know, and that is to physically still my body, you know, and to put my attention on something until I can come back to that space. But I think that it's a useful practice to have sort of a touchstone basis of stillness that is familiar, that what you can drop into when a state trooper pulls you over, you know, or when circumstances kind of jolt you a little bit, you have enough of a frame of reference to know, okay, no, wait a minute, I know how to be still, even in this moment.
Very well said. And it doesn't even have to be as deep as prayer and meditation. Like you said, you had mentioned many times before, you took a nap. What a beautiful thing. I've actually started doing that now more recently, where it's like, well, I'm tired. Well, I don't understand why I'm always tired. Right about 4 o'clock, I was like, this is not the opportunity to take a nap. But I do that. I give myself permission to listen to my body, which I don't do because I'm usually operating in the fast lane. So much so, I even have alerts in my phone that says, go to sleep, you need it. Goes off at 9:15. I have another one at 11 o'clock that says, get off TikTok. Because and of course then when I'm laying in asleep, it's like all of these random things, do penguins have knees? And all these things just occur to me, and it's like, shut it down. So sometimes we do just simple things like that, little reminders or whatever we can do to create that shift, to slow ourselves down a bit.
Solutions often come from stillness, and sometimes we will wrestle with something over a great span of time, and we'll research it, and we'll ask people their opinion, and we'll test things out. And the answer just sort of won't come to us. And then all of a sudden it just bubbles up into consciousness. But it doesn't do it when we're running from a state trooper. It doesn't do it when we're anxious about something. It does it when we're still. And the most famous one is Sir Isaac Newton. He wondered why things fall down to the ground. And he worried about that for a couple of decades. And then he wrote in a letter, and I hope this is true because it's just too good not to be, but he wrote in a letter to a friend. He said, the idea of gravity came to me when I was sitting in a contemplative mood under a tree and was occasioned by the fall of an apple. In neurology, that state is called theta reverie. It's a particular sine wave of electricity that's happening in the brain. And for some reason, from that state, fully formed solutions bubble up. But they don't bubble up unless you do the work before. They don't just sort of come to you out of the blue. But they do come out of the stillness.
It's like the golfer says, it's amazing how lucky I get when I practice. So if I practice a state of stillness, then insights can emerge. I can't remember exactly what you said in your talk, but I latched on a couple of times to the idea that to get what you want what you have, and that's and I take comfort in that. That if I am resisting my experience or whatever, I can just take a breath and think, it's fine. It's better than fine. Not only that, it's perfect. I respect the point of view that nobody's perfect. It's give yourself some grace. I get that point and that intention, and I claim it for myself as well. But the premise that I base my life on is that it is perfect. It's whole, perfect, and complete, and it can't help but be perfect. And this is what perfect looks like. And I can still, grouse about how much whiter my hair is today than it was yesterday. It's living life in real time, letting it unfold and accepting it as it is and as it is not.
Exactly. And for me, I recognize that I think it feels good when I'm in control. I recognize how good it feels when I am not in control, but that doesn't mean I am out of control. Right. I think there is a difference between being in control and feeling completely out of control. Something else I was going to say about that. And really, it's the joy of the ride. I mean, when I'll speak from my experience because it's all I know is my experience, how much I've missed out on because I have been so fixated on this is how this has to be, or I have to stay in the fast lane because someone's going to take that opportunity away from me, or I have to do a great job, or they're never going to ask me to come back again. I mean, whatever, these stories that we just make up, it's what we do. We're human. We make up stories, but we're also divine. And when we remember that, we're kind of snap back into, oh, okay, well, what's the truth? We know that we live in an abundant universe. We know that everything is divinely orchestrated. We know, sometimes we've got to get through here that we know, but we can breathe in that space. That just feels good. And I've so many years have deprived myself of that. It really hasn't been until the last 4 to 6 years of ministerial school that I realized, oh, I can do this different. And they go, please let her get this before she gets to this point. And so hang in there, guys. I'm keep rooting for me. It's happening, but it is a practice. And when we're willing to do that, it's I shouldn't be surprised, but it's beautiful what can come up.
Amen. As you've demonstrated tonight. Yes, it's beautiful.
Thank you for watching this message today. I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.